Hey, what's up everyone, Vesper here. So I just want to talk to you guys about this whole Street Fighter 6 release date situation. If you guys have been out of the loop, I'll basically just spoil the whole video right here. It looks like the earliest that we can see Street Fighter 6 releasing right now is April 2023. A lot longer than we thought. I know it's not the best of news, but I'm just letting you guys know that is pretty much the main news of this video. I'm gonna yap a lot now and give my thoughts on this. So if you guys don't want to sit through that, I'm just giving you a heads up. Now there's a lot to talk about, and I guess first we'll discuss this whole February situation, because February is what a lot of us, including myself, felt that would be the earliest time to release Street Fighter 6. It'd be the best time, actually, if they could. But it doesn't look like that's the case, and of course I'll explain why we think April is now the earliest. So back to this whole February situation, you guys have heard me time and time again discuss how, February is the window and every Street Fighter game comes out in February for Capcom. Even going all the way back to Street Fighter 2 Arcade, that came out in February. Street Fighter 3 Arcade came out in February, Street Fighter 4 Console came out in February, and of course we'll never forget Street Fighter 5 came out in February. Even MVC 2 and MVC 3 came out in February. I didn't even know that, and I looked that up. So February is the month. So why is February so appealing? The reason is because this is the tail end of Capcom's fiscal year, and it's not the same as a calendar year. It's different in Japan. Basically, Capcom's fiscal year ends in March. So we kind of use this information, this whole February thing, to kind of give us hints on when games will be announced and released. And it actually helped us with Street Fighter 6 because we strongly suspected it would be announced in February because it'd be, 1 year before release. And Street Fighter 6 actually was announced in February at Capcom Cup. But a lot of things have changed. Capcom's getting more and more aggressive with their game releases, and they're selling way more units, and Capcom's doing very well financially, ever since Monster Hunter. But if you look back, there was this financial report. Now, if you guys don't know, Capcom is basically a public company, and they have to, flaunt and beat their chest to impress their investors and their shareholders, and they basically give out forecasts for their sales, etc. Now, they mentioned at the beginning of the year, they said plans to release multiple major new titles. So multiple major titles would include, Monster Hunter, Resident Evil games, and of course we thought Street Fighter 6. But now in a more recent report that was just a couple of days ago, that's why you're hearing all this Street Fighter 6 release date news now, they contradict what they said. Now, in this latest report, they say the company will work to achieve full year guidance through measures such as the release of a major new title in the second half of the fiscal year. And we've already reached that point now, because we know it ends in March, and there's, we know Street Fighter 6 is a major title, obviously, but since Resident Evil 4 Remake is obviously a major new title as well, that pretty much tells us, hey, that's the title they're talking about. So that means there's no more big AAA titles from Capcom coming out from this point until after March, the end of the fiscal year. So obviously Capcom is not going to release, Street Fighter 6 and Resident Evil 4 Remake in the same month. And even if they were going to do something so ballsy and crazy, they would have announced the release date for Street Fighter 6 by now anyways. But even having it in April, so April would be the earliest, the month after, even that would be a very bold move from Capcom. I don't think they would want to release two giant juggernaut releases, because Street Fighter 6 is a beast. It's a big game, as you guys can tell. I don't think they would release it 1 month either. So if it's not in April, it might be even further down, and that's why a lot of people are really worried now. It could be as long as something like September, something crazy. And that's going to conflict with a lot of things that we're going to talk about with other release titles, tournaments, etc. The thing is, Capcom is they're going really hard on the sales. They're doing so well, and they're trying to top themselves every single year, right? Once again, for their investors and such. I just briefly looked back recently on major titles released back to back. The closest I found was Resident Evil 2 Remake coming out in January, I think, and Devil May Cry 5 coming out in March, and that's like as close as the windows those titles get. So I'm not saying that Street Fighter 6 coming out in April is impossible. It just seems really unlikely because of how big Resident Evil 4 Remake is, unless Capcom just didn't think the games conflict with each other, or they're just really bold and they want to hammer out as many titles as possible. But if you look at Street Fighter 6, this game is huge, man, and Capcom is in such a good financial situation, they don't need to rush out anything. I know we talked a lot before on how there was rumors on Street Fighter 6 being delayed, and there's internal issues and the whole Ono story and all of that. And some of the things, looking back on it, were very believable. But now, after hearing about the 4-year development cycle and the plans they had during interviews that Street Fighter 6 was all planned out, the Fighting Grounds World Tour, Battle Hub, 4 years ago, and all written out, I don't think it was delayed, man. I think it's pretty obvious to tell when a game is run into a few speed bumps, but after playing the beta of the game and, covering the game very thoroughly up to this point, it has no signs of problems. It looks like everything's going according to plan. Everything's going according to schedule. I don't think Capcom meant for this game to be delayed. It just looks like everything's going well. Street Fighter V, on the other hand, really obvious that there was problems. They basically had to restart after 2 years in development, and Capcom was in a huge pickle financially, and they had to make that deal with Sony. So with Street Fighter V, Capcom never had the choice to delay Street Fighter V. Because they had a deal with Sony, they had to get it out at a certain time, they were forced to rush that game. Street Fighter 6, they don't have to make any promises to anyone. They're good. They can just wait, And then when you think about it, as much as we want to play Street Fighter 6 right now, that would be awesome. And personally, I think February would be good for other reasons. At the same time, we can't have it both ways. Either we wait for the game to be 100% complete. We want Street Fighter 6 to have the best, most perfect launch ever, considering Street Fighter V. We went through 6-7 years of a bumpy roller coaster, a bumpy hill road, trying to get back to the mark that Capcom intended. Street Fighter 6 is going to be one of the biggest fighting games. You can tell they're just really passionate about it, and we don't want them to just get ahead of themselves and try to rush it out and run into the exact same problems they did before. We want this game to be perfect, and we want the launch window to be perfect. We've been getting a lot of our Street Fighter 6 news in chunks. So basically, it's been quiet, and then a huge chunk at Summer Game Fest, quiet, and then another chunk at EVO, quiet, and now TGS, right? And for a while there, we're thinking, man, this game really isn't coming in February. We're not getting that much. But then they recently revealed the whole roster. So now we're kind of like, oh, that's strange. And now we got a closed beta. But we still haven't got the release date yet, And now it kind of makes sense thinking back on it. Why? Because we still got a ways to go. We probably still have more beta tests down the road as well. But what's going on with PS4, man? If there's any concern I have about Street Fighter 6 right now, because it's not the netcode anymore, it's not the crossplay, everything seems good, I'm worried about PlayStation 4. I think it's really important that this game comes out on that console. As much as I would love a next-gen only Street Fighter game, kind of like what Tekken's doing, because you can really, make graphics look really crisp and look that big next-gen feel, because we're going to be probably playing this game for 6 to 10 years, depending on how successful it is. But I feel like if we want the biggest player base possible, especially with the world events have been happening, people recovering, money's not good right now. I think a lot of people are not, don't have a PS5, right? In general. So I think getting that PS4 audience, especially now that we have crossplay for Street Fighter 6, is really important. And not having PS4 for that closed beta and just no footage at all is just kind of worrying me in general. And I feel like they still have to tune things up, and we're still a ways to go. Now, the main reason why I think a February release window for Street Fighter 6 would be ideal, if it was possible, of course, is because of the fighting game competition. And don't get me wrong, I think Street Fighter 6 is definitely going to set the bar when it comes to fighting games and the amount of content that should be in there. But there's been a drought for a while now, and the big boys are starting to come out. NRS is definitely going to announce their next title soon, and it's probably Mortal Kombat, and that game is going to be huge. And NRS has already been setting the bar when it comes to, 2D fighting game content. And then Tekken's already been announced, Tekken 8. And then, of course, Project L, which we've been talking about for many years now. And Project L is going to bring their own set of bars and changing how fighting games are looked at, too. They're going to have some new ideas to bring to the table. But I think specifically NRS would be the most likely competition for Street Fighter 6, because Tekken 8, I would assume that game is coming out way later. I'm thinking 2024. We know for sure Street Fighter 6 is coming out in 2023. Project L is probably going to be the latest out of all those games. They're taking their sweet time. They've just begun to realize what they want their fighting game to even be at this point, gameplay-wise. Now, I think by December, that's when the big Game Awards show happens, and that's when I think we're going to hear about the next NRS game by that point. Maybe Capcom will release a character or two on YouTube, but not during the event. It seems like fighting game developers kind of taking turns with their announcements. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's kind of an inside thing where they make sure not to step on each other's toes. But NRS is a Western developer, whereas, with Tekken and Street Fighter, they're Japanese developers. So there might be some conflict there on when they're releasing stuff. But I wouldn't be surprised if Capcom would try to release near their window, because they want to get these games out as soon as they possibly can, right? At this point, if they're not going to make it by the end of the fiscal year. So, I don't want Mortal Kombat to compete with Street Fighter 6. They're both going to be huge games, no doubt. But it's also going to be tough for players to have to make the choice, because you have to, put down big money for 2 AAA games, right? And invest a lot of time learning these 2 games. Me as a content creator, yes, it's good to have a lot of titles to do content on. But once again, I don't want any of these games to overshadow and cannibalize each other's sales, because Street Fighter 6 is kind of finally reaching that big AAA fighting game point where it's going to be appealing for a lot of people that, just skipped over Street Fighter 5 or just dropped the game early, right? And, they want to get their trust back with Capcom to show how amazing this game is going to be. So I thought February would be perfect if they can get out early, right? And then get a lot of player base then. But it looks like that's not going to happen. So if that does happen, NRS releases their next game, Mortal Kombat, in April, because Mortal Kombat 11 was released in April, guys. And usually when NRS announces their games, they go full bore, crazy 2-3 month advertising campaigns. It's on talk shows and trailers and all this stuff. They go really hard, and then they release the game right away. They don't wait a long time and milk it like Capcom does. So, if Street Fighter 6 is earliest at April, Mortal Kombat comes in April, that's not going to be the best, I think. In that case, I'd rather Street Fighter 6 come out near the end of the actual year, like sometime really far, like September. But at the same time, man, that just seems like such a long window since their announcement. I don't think Street Fighter 6 is that far out, so we're going to just have to see what happens. Now, tournament-wise, there's some other kind of conflicts as well. We have Evo Japan. Now, of course, at Evo Japan, they didn't announce Street Fighter 6 as a main game. They're still going to be playing Street Fighter 5. But it would have been nice to kind of see a side tournament by then. But it doesn't look like they're going to hit that Evo Japan window, which was around, I think, the end of March or the beginning of April. I don't remember off the top of my head, but around that time. And then, of course, there's Evo, the main Evo event, which usually takes place around July, August. That would suck if Street Fighter 6 didn't make that window. And then we had Street Fighter 5 for there. I thought that would be the last Street Fighter 5 tournament this year. But if Street Fighter 6 doesn't come out soon enough, that could be the case. And then finally, Capcom Cup, of course. I think Capcom Cup is the least of our concerns. I'm sure they're going to have a Capcom Cup tournament that they can do last second and kind of figure out a way to, maybe they'll do a player invite or exhibition if they have to last second. But that's, not a wait to the end of next year. Capcom can definitely delay it to make sure that Street Fighter 6 hits that window. So I'm not too concerned about that. Once again, I don't suspect any delays going on with Street Fighter 6. I'm pretty sure Capcom has thought about this and planned ahead on all this. And I guess we'll just see what's going down. I'm pretty sure we won't hear about a release date for Street Fighter 6 probably until December on the next big event. Then we'll have a better idea of what's going on with this game's release window. So I hope the news wasn't too bad for you guys. You have to wait for that long, but just know that, of course, we want a perfect launch for this game. In the meantime, I mean, guys, I've waited for 6-7 years of Street Fighter 5 for Street Fighter 6. So what's another few months for me? It's nothing, even as a content creator. I'll just be chilling, guys, and doing my retro streams like I always have. And I guess speaking of that, if you guys don't know, if you guys are new here, I do a big retro kind of stream. I have a second YouTube channel where I upload all of my stream archives for the last 2 years, doing this big retro adventure to pass the time, where we play all the notable games from every year up to like 1995 from the 70s on like every single platform. There's hundreds of games we've played. So if you guys want to pass the time, maybe check it out. And until then, I'll just be playing more retro, and of course, I'll be updating you guys on everything Street Fighter 6. Let me know you guys' thoughts on this whole Street Fighter 6 release date situation. I'm sorry if I yap too much. I just got a lot going through my head right now, just trying to predict when this game's finally releasing. I thought this game, guys, was gonna come out years ago, honestly, with all the rumors leading up to this point. So it's been quite the roller coaster ride for me, and it's a big deal, obviously as a content creator, because I'm itching to work on a main project. It's been a while now. But yeah, I'll keep you guys posted on any Street Fighter 6 news, and me and Mir will continue to get out the whole backlog of all these videos all the way from the closed beta. So till then, guys, have a great weekend. Take care.